this mystery that we're talking about, it definitely has something to do with sound and the magical role of sound. Uh, Ayahuasca is a sort of different way of sectioning the DMT experience because ayahuasca is orally active, unfolds over hours, is not as dramatic as DMT. But the people who use ayahuasca as a ritual on a weekly basis, what their practice consists of is they take this stuff and then they sing like crazy. And then when they stop singing and people light a cigarette and take a leak and so forth, and you're listening to these conversations, you hear people say stuff about the shaman like, I like the part with the olive drab and the silver, but when it became magenta and moved toward orange, I thought he was over the top. I think, what kind of a criticism of a song is that? And the answer is sound has become a visually beheld medium. Yes. So the reason I'm interested in something as techno nerdy as virtual reality is because you could program a virtual reality so that when you went ah, an iridescent blue line would be keyed to that to descend into the space. And I'm very interested in environmental and electronic simulations of psychedelic states. But, but we're not going to do better than the psychedelics. If we can do as well, it will be a miracle. I mean, you see more beauty in a first wave of psilocybin than the human race has produced in the past 5,000 years. And who are you, you know? Yes. No, I promised this guy, Bennu, and I felt his flash of loathing. That's, I hadn't considered that, but that sounds possible. I mean, we're definitely coming to some enormous cusp, and whether you think it's the cusp of cusps or just a big cusp, it's hard to say. Somebody faxed me. I got a fax right before I came here. I don't know who sent it to me. It was just an anonymous fax, but in huge letters it said, when you strip away the hype, it's just another concrescence. Yes. It's interesting, and that's a good question. The answer is yes and no. Obviously, there is hardly anything more personal than a psychedelic experience. It is a kind of summation of who you are, and it's viewed through the filters of your personality. Nevertheless, when you put a whole bunch of DMT trips together, certain things seem to emerge. My notion, coming at it from a sort of Jungian attitude, is if we had to say what is the archetype of DMT, the archetype is the circus. It's the circus. And let me say why. First of all, a circus is a place of wild, exotic activity. And clowns are, you don't have a circus without clowns. And clowns are wonderful for children. A circus is a wonderful place for a child. DMT, there is something very, very weirdly childlike about it in a very unchildish way. Some of you may know the 52nd fragment of Heraclitus, where he says, the Aeon is a child at play with colored balls. The Aeon is the child that you encounter in the Elf Dome. Uh, uh, so, but the circus has other connotations than simply the three rings and the clowns. Eros is present, entwined with Thanatos in the form of the nearly naked lady in the tiny spangled costume who is working without nets, hanging by her teeth up near the top of the big tent. And personally, my earliest experience of Eros was that lady in the tiny spangled costume. I was so small, I was wrapped up in something and being held, and I was horny as hell. Uh, so there's that. And then there is also radiating off from the central ring the freak show, the goat faced boy, the lady in the bottle, and, the three toed alligator kid, and all of that. That's there. The wiggy, weird, kinky, strange, alien stuff. And then uh, if you think about the archetype, not so much of the circus, but of the carnival represents a breakthrough from another dimension because you live in some jerkwater town in some, I almost said Iowa, but some town, and it's like normal. And then the carnival comes to town, and children are told you can't stay out and play. The carny people are in town. And what does it mean? Well, they may fuck differently than we do. They may steal things. They're not like us. They've had more than one marriage, some of them. Uh, and then the carnival people are there, and the hoochie coochie dancers and the whole thing. And then they fold it up and they go away, just like a DMT trip. And every little boy and girl in the world worth their salt wants to join the circus, of course, and go away with the tattooed lady and the tigers and all that. So it is the archetype of the circus. So then I've seen many, many people take DMT, and some get what I get, which is it's sort of gone beyond the circus. It's the circus that the circus as presented on the Nebelganubi Prime or something like that. Uh, but one woman who was an anthropologist who I think got a sub-threshold dose, she had a very interesting trip because it was a light trip, but with no prompting from me. She said, I was at a carnival midway, but it was after hours and there was nobody there, and there were just those ice cream, those square papers for holding ice cream were just blowing in the wind and getting caught in chain link fences. It was like a sub-threshold dose. Well, then if she'd done more, she would have arrived there 8 hours earlier when the thing was happening. And if she'd done yet another toke, it would have moved off into the zone of the truly weird. That's why I love the film of Federico Fellini, because here was a circus man for sure. Yeah, a way to get the DMT. Well, you could conceivably inhibit your MAO. I don't want to tell you to do it nasally because it might be a really stinging experience. Well, then you could do it. Well, I'm working on something. I'll describe it to you. Uh, uh, I'm having a glass blower make a thing which has a chamber with a pipe stem coming off it, but it has another stem 180 degrees around the chamber coming off it that breaks into two prongs. And what you do is you heat the DMT, you insert the two prongs up your nose, and you have a friend blow on the other outlet, and it will force the entire contents of the vessel, the entire load of white smoke. But, don't try this at home, folks. Uh, pardon me? I'd go light the first time. There are old pharmacologists and bold pharmacologists, but there are no old, bold pharmacologists. Yeah. There are antidepressants that are MAO inhibitors, that's right, but I wouldn't use them for this purpose because what you want is what's called a reversible MAO inhibitor, and harmine, or harmaline, which is in the Syrian rue, is a reversible MAO inhibitor, reversible in 4 to 6 hours. Some of these antidepressants inhibit every molecule of MAO in your body for up to 3 weeks. And that's why when they give you those antidepressants, they tell you the long list of don'ts, no chocolate, no red wine, no soft cheese, no lentils, no this. That's a list of alkaloid containing foods. And if you are on those monoamine oxidase inhibiting antidepressants and you eat a bunch of camembert with your yuppie friends, you'll probably have to be roped down for a while before you straighten out. Just to sum this up and put a kind of a classifier on it, I am not very interested in drugs per se. I've done a lot of them, bad ones, good ones. And people do drugs for fun and for stupid reasons, but there is this tiny chemical family, the tryptamine hallucinogens, psilocybin, and DMT, and then some artificial cogeners, and 5-methoxy is in there too, which I'm not that fond of. But this is the doorway. It's the umbilicus of this world. These are things which are called drugs because that's the category we have for things which make the world unrecognizable. But these are not drugs. They are magical doorways into staggeringly titanic dimensions of gnosis, power, information, understanding, and dimensions filled with affection for humanity. So people say, well, you think drugs should be legalized. Yeah, but that's a political opinion of Terence Mckenna, who's just a guy like you. But this stuff about the tryptamines is a real discovery. And you can think what you like about me and my take on it. In fact, please do. But check it out. Check it out, because I've checked out lots of stuff, and this is the only thing I'm interested in telling you. Check it out. No, I don't understand that. The answer to that question, it's magical. It is a secret which keeps itself. I mean, here I am. There are 200 people here, whatever, and I do this all the time. And I have not, so far as I can tell, been able to launch an avalanche of DMT. I'm trying. Do I have to put it any more plainly? Is there a chemist in the house who will go home and make this stuff so that we can find our way there, or grow the plants, or go to South America, or get with lucid dreaming and behavioral modification, or explore the outer edges of orgasm, which I think has something to do with DMT and probably runs on it. Somehow we need to beach this whale. Yeah. It's not difficult to make. Compared to cocaine or LSD, it's a walkover. It is a reasonable exam question for a second-year student of organic chemistry to be told, synthesize and chromatograph 5 grams of DMT and submit your sample with your chromatographic data to my office Monday morning.